Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And we are just over a week from the Citadel expansion, so as you can imagine I am preparing for that in full swing. That doesn't mean I'm only preparing in EVE Online, that also means that I'm actually making quite a few videos in Elder Scrolls Online, in Fallout 4 and a few other games, just so that I can keep the videos going every day and also really try and put a lot of effort into EVE Online when the expansion finally hits. So there's still a lot of work to do, but I'm very happy to do it. Of course, we are here for the market, and as always, we will start with plex. So that will be at 45 seconds. And plex, so 45, are back up a little bit. So they're around $1.090 billion a piece for the sellers. 1066 for the buyers, so the margin is around 24 million. That's actually a pretty decent margin, but if we look at the chart, you can see that we did jump up here. Well, on the 5-day moving average, we never really got below $1.080 billion, so we jumped back up, and here it tried to get close to 20-day moving average, but it looks like it may already be on the way down. So it's still hesitating just a little bit, but of course there was a plex sale last week, which could of course have been a major contributor to the decrease in price in plex, and close to $1 billion. I mean, there is one data point very close to $1 billion, but going below that is going to be pretty difficult, I think, if we are already hesitating at this point. A lot of people, I think, are still interested in holding plex as a store of value, and you don't want to wait for plex to go below $1 billion if that's the investment you want to make, because, well, the chance that it will cross that line is pretty slim, I think. Still, keep an eye on the plexes. Of course, we are down from 1.26 billion to a bottom, if this is indeed a bottom, of 1.08 billion, which is not bad, almost 200 million in difference. That would be almost 15-20% easy that we lost here in around 2 months, I would say. Pretty much that. So is this a bottom? Then of course this could still be the right time to buy. This could be a great opportunity to pick up some plex on the cheap. If you think that plex are going even lower, then of course you might want to hold out just a little bit. For my personal feeling, I do think that this could be a bottom already, and that the closer we get to FanFest and the expansion, the more pressure there will be on plex to actually start to go back up, as people will be coming back to the game to check it all out. So of course, I don't really like to make predictions because I don't think I'm that good at them, but yes, I don't think we'll go below 106, which you'll see right here. Let's call it at that, and I actually think that we'll start to see upward pressure on the plex at this point. That's my personal expectation. Next up here, we've got the multiple pilot training certificate. Could give us an indication as well, because it tends to mirror the plex very closely. You can see here it dipped just below $1.050 billion, so it did manage to break that point on the multiple pilot training certificate. The interesting thing here is that the 5-day moving average and the 20-day moving average are crossing each other just below the 1.1 billion mark, and this one doesn't seem to be correcting back like plex has been doing right at the tail end there. So it's going to be quite interesting. These are selling already for 1.170 billion, so that's already quite a bit more than plex. And if this is any indication, of course, it could still be that there is some pressure on plex, and that the training certificate will have to swing back to catch up with the plex market. But the opposite is also possible, which is my expectation, is that the plex market has to catch up to the multiple pilot training certificate, and is actually going to go back up above 1.1 billion pretty soon. This is actually quite high all of a sudden. So the sellers are 170. They're pretty much yeah, here on the chart, which is definitely quite high. So this is, I think, definitely a disparity that you need to keep a close eye on, because potentially it could also make you a little bit of money. Yeah, this could mean that we are in cheap plex territory. It could also be that we are in very expensive training certificate territory, and that putting these up for sale on a downtrend could actually be a good money maker if you manage to buy these cheaply. Next up, we've got the body resculpt, which is staying just below 280 million. So some stability in this one. Again, it is showing that the body resculpt is its own little market and is not following the same rules as the plex and the pilot training certificate markets. Let's take a look at skill extractors. All right, we did go all the way down from, let's say, 310 million at the launch down to 250 million. Here we're bouncing off of that. What are they selling for? 250 million, just above that, 242 for the buyers. That's not very high, I don't think, for the skill extractors, about a quarter of a plex. Considering the RM price, though, I think it could be a pretty much normal price. The more interesting one is, of course, going to be the skill injectors, which have gone up to 640 million. So 650 million for the sellers, 637 million for the buyers. Compare that to a plex, it's more than 50% of a price of plex at the moment, and I just don't think that that's very realistic. Of course, you can see that the disparity between the highs and the lows here have already been quite big. So we've gone as low as 615 million and then back up to 640. So the market just isn't that sure what to do with the skill injectors just yet. I think a lot of investors are also grabbing skill injectors in the same way that they're grabbing plex to hold value. But I do think that at some point we will see a correlation between skill injectors and plex prices, because I think that there is a very strong tie between them. You can't have plexes cost, let's say, 600 million and then a skill injector cost 640 million. I don't think that the convenience is worth that much difference in SP from the same item. So that's my thinking, and that's the theory I think that I'll be working on as the skill injectors chart starts to show a clearer trend. It is still a very new chart, less than 2 months old, so it's very difficult to really gauge that market just yet. But as this one matures, and then as the plex market continues to evolve, absorbing what has happened with the skill injectors, I do think that trying to find an analysis, a correlation between those two is going to be something that can be very helpful for investments in these markets. So yeah, there we go. That's it for the plex stuff. Let's take a look at some minerals. I actually think that those are pretty interesting as well. 745. And let's take a look at some of these. We'll start, as always, with the cheapest one. Here is titanium, breaking out a little bit. So that's unexpected. I thought that titanium would move around the 6.2 ISK mark, but yeah, we jumped up to 6.4. Not yet at a 6 month high, but pretty close to it, including a data point close to 6.6 ISK. So I guess maybe a big buyer. Is there an increase in volume? Yeah, at the start of the increase in price here, you can see what is almost an exceptionally high volume, close to what would that be? Probably more than 15 billion units, and that for 2 days in a row. So it's pretty obvious that people did buy quite a bit of titanium. 659 for the buyers, 664 for the sellers. That's a very good price, I think, for titanium. If I were a speculation man again, honestly, if I look at what the Citadel costs at the moment, what's up on CC, and if CCP would want to make any tweets, maybe a mineral tweak could be something that they might do, because at the moment the PI part of the Citadels is just really the biggest bulk of it, and the mineral part of it is almost inconsequential. Well, it's not nothing, but compared to the amount of money you have to put into the PI stuff, it is quite a bit lower than that. And maybe CCP might want to rebalance that a little bit. That is, I think, one thing that will drive short-term speculation on both titanium, the minerals, and the advanced PI materials. At the moment, it would be what might CCP still change to the blueprints of the citadels, and I think that there may yet be a pass depending on what the market has been doing. So we'll see how that works out. Next up here we've got pyrite actually dropping back down substantially, so definitely something that I was not expecting. Last week it was looking like all the high-tech minerals were finding a price range and were starting to move in a more stable manner, but no, pyrite also breaking the trend, but this one on the downtrend, doing the exact opposite as titanium, moving down towards 10.9. So breaking the 11 ISK mark, well, just at the 11 ISK mark for the sellers, 1084 for the buyers though. And supply here, let's see, 250 million, 610 million, that's definitely not bad. If you look at titanium, still quite a bit coming in, but that's normal of course because of the high prices. So yeah, pyrite surprisingly enough going down in price here, breaking the trend as well. I was thinking we might see a bit of a stable period before the actual launch of citadels, but that's not happening. Next up here we've got Mexalon, also increasing in price quite constantly. I would have been happy if it stayed just around the 62 price mark, but even 61 on average, you know, that's honestly what I was expecting. But nope, going up towards 64 ISK, 63.55 for the sellers and 61.56 for the buyers. So Mexalon also turning the trend around, which for 6 months has been a very slow downtrend of the price, slowly going down towards 60 ISK and finally breaking that, heading towards 58 ISK, and as a response now we're actually going back up. So the bottom right here below 60 ISK would have been a very good opportunity to stock up on some of that Mexalon and try to make some profit out of that. You also see a big volume spike here, just a few days I think after the titanium spike. That is pretty interesting. Is it investments? Is it preparations for something? All of that is definitely possible. I know that the Imperium is rumored to have lost several super capitals in construction, and so maybe they'll want to make up for that by building a few extra ones somewhere else, and that they need the minerals for that. Something like that is obviously always possible, and that's just a message that I got. Next up here we've got Isogen. So starting at 125 is pretty much at the start of the 6 months chart here. We can see that it's not exactly the same as Mexalon because it has a little bit more variation and a bit more scale to it, but obviously also the first 4 or 5 months here going down drastically towards 100 ISK, and here again I thought we would start moving above and below 100 ISK in the foreseeable future, but we're breaking down towards the lower end of the chart here. 97.7 for the sellers, 95.4 for the buyers, and yeah, that's just not very good for Isogen, honestly. Could this be an opportunity to stock up on that, to buy a little bit? It is possible. We again do see a slight uptick in volumes here just not that long ago, but it couldn't increase the price for Isogen, and as a result all of this does seem to be pretty slow and steady. It's hard to call a bottom on this one just yet. Managing to pull the sellers below 100 ISK is also something that could be psychologically important, because that means that Isogen could actually go quite a bit lower. Let's say 90 could become like a new support or something like that. It's a difficult market at the moment, honestly, to foretell. I guess all of the changes, maybe people coming back saying that the capital changes might not be that bad, wanting to build some carriers and supers or things like that. There's a lot of different variables at the moment that could indicate why the minerals are doing what they're doing. Next up here we've got Noxium. Ooh, that's unexpected but not bad. So 470, we were languishing at a very low price. You don't even see it on the chart anymore, but historically this is a very low price for Noxium. But we're breaking out just a little bit towards 500 ISK, so 506 for the sellers, 497 for the buyers, having to follow suit. That is pretty interesting. Well, the investment opportunity obviously close to 465 ISK right here would have been a great opportunity to stock up in minerals. Again, we do see the increase in volumes here. Someone is buying a lot of minerals. I think it could have something to do with what's happening in Nosik at the moment. Quite a few war drums are beating, and as a result, Noxium also going up quite substantially towards 500 ISK. That's not really bad. 30 ISK difference in, well, just a few days, honestly, less than a week. That's really a decent move already. Probably too late to invest in Noxium, but I actually have some stocks of those lying around. So there you go, Noxium seemingly breaking out. How long will they last? It is possible that supply can squash this pretty quickly. So if you want a decent opportunity to sell, you could do that right now if you want to get rid of some of the Noxium that you may have flying around because of the extremely low prices that these are at the moment historically. Even at 500 ISK, Noxium is not expensive at all. So next up we've got some null sequence. Here is Zydrine after the pretty decent increase in price here from 900 ISK up to 1400. That's more than decent actually. That's more than 50%. We are pulling back a little bit, but this time I think we're hesitating a bit more to drop back that low. So we're staying above 1150 ISK. 1150, someone is bringing in a little bit of Zydrine, 1194 for the sellers, but a decent amount of sell orders as well. Several million here coming in on 40 days, so they're expecting this to sell quite quickly as well. And that's quite a lot. So this is going to put quite a bit of pressure on the price of Plex from 2000 downwards here, 13 million, 9 million. Yeah, actually I think Zydrine could go quite a bit lower because of all the supply here. And that means that it's looking more and more like this could be a bit of manipulation right here. At least partly manipulation in the Zydrine market. Next up here we've got Megasite, probably very similar also. Again, after the increase in price from around 1000 ISK to 1350, going back down now just below 1200, but managing to maintain a bit better than Zydrine. Let's see what supply is looking like though. Look at that again, that pattern, less than a day old, quite a bit of that in very similar volume sizes as well. We have to go, yeah, this is 2 to 3 pages of sell orders for Megasite. This is going to put quite a bit of pressure on the price, and again I think could be an indication that some manipulation has been attempted, probably decently successful as well, but you can see pretty low volumes here, volumes picking up just a little bit at the end as people are dumping more and more Megasite, but I think we could go quite a bit lower on these again. And next up here we've got Morphite. Ooh, that's bad news. Morphite, the nullsic mineral that's been able to maintain a price quite a bit better, more stability than Zydrine and Megasite have been able to do. Although obviously on a 6-month downtrend now, it's actually after it tried to claw its way back to 10,800 ISK. Now it's actually dropping right off, definitely breaking the trend of trying to hold on here. And the sellers are closing in on 10,000 ISK, so 180, 10,101. God damn it, 10,180 ISK for the sellers, and the buyers 9,850. So it is pretty obvious that the buyers are trying to pull Morphite below 10,000 ISK, and we still see quite a bit of supply coming in here as well. So I think that they're slowly succeeding. This is not good for the Morphite holders, but it is good, I think, for the Tech 2 market, because this is used in Tech 2 production. So the increase in price here, big volume spike, but after that now we're clearly going down quite drastically in the Morphite market, and I think that sellers below 10,000 ISK is only a matter of time at this point. So yeah, pretty interesting. The mineral market still in full development. I thought, at least for the high-sec part, that we would be in more stable waters, but that's not the case. All of them are just moving around, trying to find their new ranges. Interestingly enough, Tritanium and Mexalon going up quite a bit, and then we've got Pyrite and Isogen going down quite substantially as well, heading towards 6 months lows. So there's no unified picture to make here at the moment. Next up, Tech 1 market then, let's say 19 minutes. This could be a pretty long one, but we'll see. The Armageddon, finally, a little bit of pressure on the price, dropping below 208 million. Does that mean that more of them are coming in slowly? So still very few individual sell orders, but in decent volumes, 59, 13, 25. It's going to take a while for the market to actually absorb these ships because, well, I've heard that there are more battleships being used in nullsec, just doesn't look like it's going to be Armageddon fleets at the moment. Volume here increased as well by quite a bit, above 100, but seeing volume increase and a decrease in price, of course, is not very good, a very good sign for the price. But all right, Armageddons, they're coming back to the market. People are slowly bringing them again, but they're heading towards 210 million. So I think it's decently affordable. Armageddon is a pretty expensive one to produce as well. Next up here, we've got the Caracal. That is both strange and a little bit expected as well. So in the last week, we've seen so much nullsec propaganda that I actually start to feel like a real war could be brewing, and the war that a lot of people were actually rooting for. It's almost looking like an everyone against the CFC, everyone against the Imperium, and as a result, yeah, Caracal fleets are something that alliances like Pandemic Horde, like Test Alliance, like Brave Newbies might want to field on a regular basis, especially if they have to get to a fight from a bit further away. Then I think a throwaway Caracal fleet is something that they might want to do. We see huge increase in volumes here, so this is obviously an increase in price that's actually due to buying out almost of the market, and people as a response are actually producing a lot of Caracals, trying to take advantage of these higher prices. But yeah, I think a lot of parties in nullsec are building up Caracal fleets so that they can use them very quickly, maybe as a response here and there to the war drums really being beaten quite hard at the moment when it comes to nullsec. I think this is pretty interesting, very exciting also. I love all the propaganda that I'm seeing, and here is a first impact, in my opinion, on the market. The Caracal price just shooting up to the moon. 12 million and currently selling for 15.5 million. That's definitely a substantial jump for a Tech 1 ship. Next up here, we get the Dominics trying to hold on at 205 million. So again, battleships not in vogue that much. Not that many new Dominics coming in either, sellers at 208 million. This is actually an okay stable chart if you keep in mind that we're constantly hovering between 195 and 210 million. Then this is quite alright for a stable Tech 1 ship. Again, it's a battleship, not really used that much in big nullsec fleets, and as a result, I don't think they're lost that often, and so they don't need that much supply to stay decently stable. Next up here we get the Drake. Drake unfortunately doesn't seem to be like something that's in the meta either. This is starting at above 58 million and ending at 55 million, actually slightly down on the 6 month chart, but this is decently alright as well. The interesting one is, of course, that it was slowly going down towards, let's say, 54 million here. Then we get a big spike up, an overcorrection with a low below 53 million. As a response, another spike up here. Maybe someone did create a few Drake fleets, seeing the opportunity to buy them below 53 million. And then, of course, now we are responding again, and I think we will start to hover in the 54-55 million range on average for a Drake, which is quite normal, and the availability is actually quite alright as well. Even there's not that many Drakes coming in the last few days, and that of course as a response to the decrease in price here. But seeing that the increased response here has been stopped already, I do think the Drake is just not something that's going to jump out as a fleet doctrine at the moment, and so probably going to stay decently stable even with lower volumes and not that much supply. Next up here we get the Mauler chart. Also, oh my god, did like a big volume spike just happen, and do we have to catch up or something? Sellers though, 12.7 million, buyers 11.2 million, and yeah, all right, it's a little bit higher than the average. The Mauler has been very stable for 4 months right here in the middle of the chart. The big volume spike here is pretty interesting. Does that mean that new supply decent new supply has been coming in? So the Maulers are actually, I think, at a decent price, above 12 million. The volume spike here is quite unexpected, but we are not seeing a price response just yet, and so I think the Mauler could stay in this price range at the moment. Next up here we get the Myrmidon. We saw last week that it did go to a very high place, but I also expected that some response was going to come in. and it does. So it's not even that big in seller volumes. But yeah, we're going back down towards 56 million on the sellers. People just aren't buying the Myrmidons at these higher prices. So I think that this was a speculative increase in price. We see that very similar to the Drake chart, an increase in price has caused an over response in supply, breaking below 52 million. That has caused maybe someone to come in as on a speculative opportunity, increase the price to 58 million, but despite that, the lower volumes are apparently causing the price to go back down. We're not seeing big supply coming in the last few days, but despite that, Myrmidon prices did go down and are now stabilizing, I'd say, on an average of 55 to 56 million, which if you look at the chart for 6 months is actually quite alright as well. So yeah, the Myrmidon, a little bit of, I think, oversupply right here, then a bit of market manipulation, an attempt right there, but it has failed because we don't see any volumes to really explain the decrease in price right here. That's my reading of this. Next up here we've got the Oracle, a little bit more volatility. We do see an increase in volume here, increasing the price, but we are also seeing decent supply coming in. So the Oracle is up just a little bit. This could again be nullsec related. I do think that Oracle sniper fleets are a thing in nullsec. So I do think that we'll have to start. The more action we're starting to see in nullsec, the more we'll have to take a look at the Tick 1 market from that lens. From there could be a war brewing, or there is a lot of action happening in nullsec, and so oracles could probably play a part in that. Preparations for Oracle fleets might be in full effect, and as a result buying opportunities are being snagged up quite quickly, slowly increasing the price here. Next up we've got the Raven, probably not really a nullsec doctrine, and so that one as a result is staying just above 190 million, nothing really to spot on the volumes perspective, and we still see a decent supply of Ravens, surprisingly enough, for a PvE ship. Next up here we've got a Stabber market, also slowly declining towards 11 million, which, well, it probably used to be. Volume, yes, just a few weeks ago, but we see the corresponding increase in price. So again, I think that here, surprisingly enough, I'm again seeing that pattern where the Stabber was stabilizing quite steadily back towards like 11 million, just below that, where it used to be before the first big spike in price happened. We see an increase in price, an over response from supply as we actually go as low as 10 million, and now we're actually trying to stabilize from this. So this is a recurring pattern in ships that I don't really think are being completely bought out by nullsec alliances at the moment. Next up here we've got the Tornado, probably shooting up in price. Yeah, exactly. This could be nullsec related, could also be ganking related. I do think that Tornado fleets are a thing as well, and so these are currently going for 88.7 million, and obviously increase in price. Volume increase not that visible, but here we do see a few days of pretty high volumes, on average above 100 units, and slowly decreasing as the price increases here. So again, strangely enough, increase in price up to 82 million, maybe a little bit of an over response, as we did go as low as 72 million for quite a while, and now a huge shoot up, which I would contribute to probably nullsec fleet preparations. Next up here we've got the Typhoon. Again, battleships are just not really the thing in nullsec at the moment, at least not the Tick 1 battleships. I know that there are Makarel fleets and things like that out there, but yeah, the Typhoon just basically dropping back towards 175 million, 180. We still see supply here, again surprising, just like with the Raven. Why would you produce Typhoons and bring those to the market when you could produce Oracles and Tornadoes? It's sort of strange, but maybe the market needs to adapt to the possibility of a nullsec war at the moment. And then finally here we have the Vexor, extremely stable again for like 4 or 5 months, staying in the 11.5 to 12 million band. Some volatility, a bit of an overshoot, again a bit of volatility. So it is back, but it is not that dramatic just yet. I actually think that this volatility will continue to decrease very quickly, and that we will find new normal prices basically again start going around 12 million for the Vexor very quickly, and that for any ship, Tech 1 ship that's not actively used in major fleets in Nullsec, I think that is going to be the case. But if you find the doctrines for Nullsec fleets, then this could be a great opportunity for you to time the markets, if you do think that the Nullsec war is going to happen. So pretty interesting to see all of this, and actually think that this gives us some homework to do when it comes to what's happening in Nullsec. Next up, we've got the Tech 2 market, 30 minutes. So let's take a look at some of these. I actually think that volatility could be back, and exactly here is the Basilisk going up in price to 220 million. So I don't think I called it. I would have preferred to see buyers probably closer to 180 million, but you could have probably bought them quite decently last week or 2 weeks ago on this downtrend right here, and now another spike up to 220 million. Again, I do think that Nullsec has something to do with this. The fuzzy sovereignty that they're fighting under at the moment is actually encouraging smaller fleets that can hold their own, and Tech 2 logistics cruiser are still a really strong backbone for that. And so I think that this could be part of the reason why we're seeing that much more volatility in the Tech 2 market. Next up here, we've got the Cerberus, huge increase in price here as well, from 200 million to 270 million, completely out of line with my expectations, because this is actually from 180 million to 210 million was already a decent spike, but this one is absolutely monstrous, and I think that we have a double whammy here. Cerberus fleets are flown actively in Nullsec, I know that, but on top of that, I think we also have the Johnny Pugh effect, because he made a video about showing off the Cerberus in the current event sites, and we could obviously also expect a response from that. Johnny Pugh is, I think, the biggest EVE Online YouTuber, and as a result, when he shows what a certain ship can do at a certain job, it's going to attract a lot of people to that doctrine. And so, yeah, if he had told me in advance, then we would have been able to make quite a bit of money, but he didn't. So I think here we've got the Nullsec and the Johnny Pugh effect doing a double whammy on a ship that was already pretty high in price. So actually the Cerberus at 200 million was pretty high. You could have picked those up at like 180 to 190 for quite a while before that, but now jumping that one up to 270 million is a huge double jump to make. And I think that this is, yeah, the Nullsec and Johnny Pugh making that video about the Cerberus that hit that one doubly so. So if you knew about that, you would have been able to make quite a bit of money on this, because they are selling for like 260 million at the moment. But this one was definitely off my radar. I did not expect Cerberus to jump at this point. Next up here, we've got the Guardian, very similar here, also actually going up earlier than I thought, but again, I do think that Nullsec could have something to do with it. So yeah, I told people that I think you should wait until we drop back, let's say at least below 140, before you start putting up buy orders for the Guardian to pick them up slowly. Yeah, obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon, as the Guardians are going back up as well. Next up here, we've got the Hound, slight tick up here as well towards 21 million, but that's not completely out of line just yet. And if you manage to buy a few close to 18 million last week, then I think there was a slight possibility for that after that decrease in price right here. So volumes increasing here again, could be, I think, Nullsec related. Ishtar going up as well, 195 million, trading at a very high price at the moment. Next up here, we've got the Manticore also going back up here. So all of them, honestly, Nemesis is the one exception. All right, interesting. Finally, I'm finding an exception here. The Nemesis is basically holding its price at around 20 million despite the very high volumes. That is something that we have to keep in mind, of course. I think Nullsec preparations are in effect, and we have very high volumes, but all the volatility that we had in like the last 2 months or so in the Tech 2 market means that Increased volume for the Nemesis, for instance, doesn't mean increased price, because the Nemesis at 20 to 21 billion is actually still a decent price, decently high price to pay. And so if people are willing to actually pay that price in big volumes, they're just not increasing the price that much, because normally you should be able to pick up a Nemesis for 18 million. And that is why we see increased volumes, but no corresponding price spike just yet. Next up here we got the Oneros, another logistics cruisers. I think I said, yeah, last week maybe you might be able to pick a few up, because this was starting to look like quite a big descent towards a new bottom. We are back up. Let's say if you're very lucky, you might have been able to pick a few up for, let's say, 150 million. They're currently selling for 160 million. So this is already being squashed quite effectively by supply. I'm a bit surprised by that. So yeah, again, Oneros not that good. You have a few sell opportunities at the moment, like the Cerberus, but it's not anything that I would have spotted or been able to anticipate. But buy orders, yeah, not happening at the moment. Purifier going up as well from 19 million. And then finally here we also have the Scimitar slightly going up. And then here we get the Vengeance, which is, of course, the assault frigates. That's just not used that much because of the tactical destroyers. And so this one is slowly going down. Again, not enough volatility for investments, too high a price at the moment to do anything with it, and just in my opinion not really anything that's going to be flown super actively in nullsec or anything like that either, whereas all the other ones are actually going up across the board, and except for the Nemesis, but doing so from a decently high point already. So this is actually quite surprising to me. You do see increasing volumes, of course, increasing the price, but they're doing that from a very high point. And again, I do think that this could be nullsec related. So next up here, we've got the tech tree market at 36 minutes. And let's take a look at these. Again, if there is indeed a war brewing, there could be an end to the stability already in the tech tree market as well. Here is the confessors, still slowly going down. So volumes, nothing too special to report here. And supply, look at that, less than a day old, more than a full front page, probably more than 100 confessors coming in here. So yeah, which is about the daily average. So the pressure here is still on. That's interesting. Next up here we got Hecate, very similar, constantly going down below 50 million at the moment. New supply, again a full front page, so yeah, definitely going down. Is it that Wormhole Space has found more stability to bring more supply to the market? It's possible. It's quite interesting to see here. Here's the Jackdaw stabilizing just above 48 million. New supply, yeah, again a full front page of Jackdaws, despite the fact that we already have really good availability of these tech tree destroyers. It is surprising, but we're slowly going to go down. If you want a longer term investment, then this could start to be the place to look, honestly. And then finally we've got this Vapel here stabilizing at around 50 million as well. New supply, again full front page, decent numbers, and then you can go down after that quite a bit as well for availability. So the tech tree destroyers at the moment, they seem to be in really big supply, very good availability, low prices, and is this worth an investment? If you think that at some point in nullsec big tactical destroyer fleets may be built, then this could be the right time to do so, because the market is a little bit crazy at the moment, I think, because of everything that's happening in nullsec. So next up here, the cruisers here, the Legion, again a bit of pressure going below 170 million. New orders not that many, and supply, well, I wouldn't say it's great by any means, but there are still some legions available. So, okay, interesting. nullsec could swoop in, make one legion fleet, and you'd be in trouble here. So, at risk for volatility, way more than the destroyers, but still at a slightly depressed price at the moment. Next up here we've got the Loki, also going down in price to 160 million in fact. A new supply, not a lot, definitely not a lot. Availability, definitely better than the Legion. So interesting, despite the fact that we're not seeing any new supply here, we're at very low prices. Proteus jumping up just a little bit from 170 million to 190 million. And as a response, supply is coming back here. Have a front page of decently new orders from 200 million to 195 million, and below that average availability, definitely not enough to call for very stable prices. Next up here we've got the Tengu. That one went below 170 million, trying to claw its way back up here, but yeah, 170 million, still some supply coming in, and availability probably the highest of all the Tech 3 cruisers. So, okay, quite interesting. Big difference between the destroyers and the cruisers. At the moment, the cruisers are not being brought to the market, not being produced, presumably, and they are at 6-month low prices. The availability is slowly shrinking of these, and so I think that these are at risk of volatility, of going up in price all of a sudden when someone decides to buy a big fleet of them. When it comes to destroyers, those have just too big volumes, I think, to be increased in price all of a sudden, and to my surprise, despite the low prices, have a very big supply still coming in like the last 24 hours. So that is quite a difference between these two ships here at the moment. But again, try to keep what's happening in Nullsec at the back of your mind, and you may spot the right opportunities at the moment, I think. And then for the extra materials that were requested, 4020. Let's see, someone sent me a mail with a few suggestions, but it included the Cerberus, which I've already covered. And again, I think that both Nullsec and Johnny Pew's doing there. Also, there was a request for the Noxium. So yeah, this increase in price, honestly, considering what the other minerals are doing, I think it's going to get squashed. But it is a slight sell opportunity at the moment. Probably not the best if you can hold on to your stocks, but there is a slight sell opportunity there. And then a request for stuff that I've covered before, but I'll do it again. Apparently people do like these. So it is for the gecko. Of course, the gecko being something that has dropped a few times now from the latest event, which will stop by next week. The response here has been extremely big volumes as people learned about the dropping of geckos in those sites from the event called the Hunt, and the price went from 70 million down to 50 million. But people were willing to invest in these for the longer term, so we're now clawing our way back towards 60 million already, and I actually don't have reports that they dropped like in really huge numbers, that the drop rate was that high that it would have actually really influenced the market that much. And so as a response, we're going back up towards 60 million. And are we going to keep going back up? It is possible, because well, it depends on CCP what the gecko market is going to do in the longer term. And it is possible that this was a one-off, that they just brought a few extra geckos back to the game just because it fit with the event, but then of course it remains a gamble. Will they bring geckos back more often because of Valkyrie? I think that is a possibility, and as a result I think that the investment is quite risky. But if CCP doesn't bring them, let's say for a full year, then yes, the gecko could be a great investment at the moment, to have a store of value, because of course they're not produced in the game. So it's an interesting one. I think that this was obviously an overreaction to the news that they were dropping, going below 50 million, but people have already been making their move on investing back into the geckos when they became this cheap. Quite interesting. And the other request was for the Sisters of Eve ships again. Probably missed during the last Eve talk, but I'll gladly cover these again. So the Astero at the moment, 6-month low. If you want to use these, if you want to have these ready for newer players as PvP covered up ships, this is indeed a good time, in my opinion, to buy Sisters of Eve ships. They are very low in price. 58 million right here for an Astero is pretty damn cheap for a covered ops ship that is extremely good at exploration and all of that stuff. Yeah, Astero here, I think that this is investment worthy both for personal use and for longer term, as an investment to make some money. Don't go completely overboard, honestly. The the addition of let me see here, what is it called exactly, Project Discovery, will keep this from, I think, completely blowing out all of a sudden. But yes, this is, I think, a good time to consider stocking up on these ships. And then the other ones here, let's take a look at the Astero Pirate Factions. Stradios right here, again, very similar charts, going down quite substantially in the last 2 months from 280 million to below 220 million. You're just picking them up for 219 million for a Covert Ops cruiser that with very strong drone capabilities, honestly, for the solo PvPers, for the wormhole divers, for smaller scale PvP. These are extremely powerful ships, very good, very low skill ceiling as well. And so yeah, consider buying them, especially if you're planning to use them. After the Astero, we also have, of course, the battleship that's left. And this one used to cost way more than $1 billion. And look at that, from 1.05 billion all the way down to 700 million. This ship becomes interesting to buy at this point. I think it's actually used in nullsec, and despite that we can see the constant decrease in price. So it is a very strong repping platform. I don't think for the solo players this is as interesting, but it does show the pattern in the Sisters of Eve ships. They're all at 6 months lows. They're very affordable at the moment compared to where they were before. As an investment, I wouldn't go all out by any means, but just a few here and there, picking those up on the cheap on buy orders could be a good idea. And if you plan to use these, then of course this is the exact time that you want to start making a few stocks, preparing these ships so that you can lose them later on. Yeah, very good spot. I saw it as well a few weeks ago when we got the suggestion, but Sisters of Eve ships extremely cheap at the moment, and especially for newer players, these are Covert Ops combat PvP ships that you can fly very easily, that you might want to consider just as a stepping stone to get into some solo and small group PvP in EVE Online. So I'm happy to cover this one here as well, and to confirm that yes, in my opinion, Sisters of Eve ships, if you want them, this is the time to buy them. Anyways, that's going to be it for this EVE Talk then, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.